I'm Allie, and today we're going to talk to you about romance fraud and how you can protect yourself and the ones you love from this really terrible crime. All right, here's my moment to switch the slides. All right, I did it. So I'm just going to briefly start off by talking about Cybercrime Support Network. Again, that's who Kim and I work for. It's a nonprofit. You can see our mission there. But what I want you to know is that we help individuals who've been affected by severe cybercrime. So again, romance scams, but also think crypto investment scams, identity theft, things like that. So if you ever find yourself in that position, head on over to our website, fightcybercrime.org, and check out the initiatives we're doing and see if we can help you out. All right, so with that, let's move on to our next slide, and I'm going to pass it to Kim, and she's going to tell you about romance scams.
Thanks, Allie. So what are romance scams? Romance frauds are among the most prevalent scams on the internet, preying on our human desire for connection and companionship. Romance fraud comes in many variations and may even include a romance fraud turned crypto investment fraud, also known as a crypto ROM, or you may have heard it reported in the news as pig butchering. Regardless of the type of romance fraud, here's a comprehensive look at how these scams typically unfold. So first and foremost, it's important to note that most romance scams are perpetuated by organized crime rings. In some cases, they may even be state-sponsored. While there is a chance it could be a one-person deal, that's usually not the case. These rings are everything we already know organized crime to be. They've just found a new way to steal from us. Romance scammers start by creating fake social media or online dating profiles. They use stolen photos and names, and sometimes even generating images or videos using the latest in AI technology and voice cloning to make their personas more convincing. Scammers invest significant time in getting to know their victims. They research their potential targets, studying their social media profiles to gather personal information. This helps them to tailor their approach to seem more genuine and more appealing. Unlike stereotypical scammers who quickly ask for money, many of these romance fraudsters actually spend months cultivating this relationship. They engage in deep conversations, usually using a lot of texting, which really that back and forth texting, that's going to act as like an instant shared journal between two people. And this can become real intense, real fast. The scammers will share fabricated life stories to create a narrative of hope and happiness. This prolonged interaction helps them to build trust and emotional dependence. Over time, the scammer casually isolates the victim from friends and family, depending on their emotional bond. This deepens that closeness between the scammer and their victim. This slow manipulation process makes it difficult for victims to recognize the scam or to seek help. The emotional investment is so strong that victims, even when they suspect something is wrong, often struggle to be able to break free. The tactics used will mimic other dark manipulation tactics that you may have heard of. For example, dark marketing tactics, abusive tactics, and include narcissistic tendencies and gaslighting. Eventually, the scammer will request money, often citing an emergency or an opportunity that requires immediate financial assistance. By this point, the victim may be willing to provide financial support, believing that they're helping someone that they really care about, believing that they've built this relationship with this person and this person is their significant other. At this point, they truly feel they know the individual and that all the time the individual has spent and all of the information they've shared, all of this emotion that's been invested, that they couldn't possibly be a scammer, that a scammer wouldn't invest this amount of time, couldn't concoct this story or show this real emotion. Victims will lose substantial amounts of money, sometimes even ending up in homeless shelters due to financial ruin. Many victims felt they were building a life with this person, with this new loved one, their new interest, their significant other that they had waited all of this time for, and that this person that they know so well would pay them back. The emotional toll can also lead to severe consequences, including attempts at suicide. Romance scams have become a multi-billion-dollar industry. Last year alone, just in the United States, Americans lost $1.3 billion to these scams. And that's just the people who reported. And we know that many people don't report this scam because they're embarrassed. So we know that this number is significantly higher. And we also know that it's growing exponentially. With the rise of AI, scammers have become more sophisticated, using advanced technology to enhance their deception. AI-generated content and voice cloning make their personas very believable, while cryptocurrency helps them to facilitate an untraceable financial transaction. It's a misconception that only older, less tech-savvy individuals fall victim to romance fraud. Our peer support program at CSN shows that victims come from all age groups and all backgrounds, highlighting the widespread nature of this threat. The estimates are that over 40% of people who experience romance fraud are college educated or better. Anyone using the internet to find love interests need to be vigilant about romance fraud. Remember, it's not just you against a scammer. It's you against an organized network of criminals using the latest technology and emotional manipulation to try to get you to act, to deceive you, and to defraud you. So why are cyber criminals so successful? Scammers are professional criminals. This is their job. It is the way they make their money. They commit hours a day to scamming and stealing. Some spend months or even years using tactics either as a direct ask or getting the person who they've now formed the relationship with to willingly offer their help. So how do they do this? By learning what buttons they can push for each individual. They quickly learn what makes that individual tick. What action can they help this person to take to give them what they want, which is your information and your money? Is it guilt? Is it love? Does that person react to helping someone in need? Is that their personality? Is it that they respond to threats, fear, or constant badgering? They take the time during those months to figure out what tactic to use to get what they want. We have had victims say that they spoke to or virtually met with the scammer's family or supposed family, or that the scammer has interacted with their own family, with their children's or their siblings, or they talked about their pets. They each had pets and they showed videos of their pets and shared that with each other. We have had victims tell us that they couldn't believe that it was all fake because the scammer so realistically cried on the phone with them, shared ups and downs with them, and other victims who told us they gave their money because they were pressured, that they were threatened, or they just couldn't stand the badgering anymore, that when the scammer wanted money for whatever emergency purpose they needed, they called and texted incessantly until the person gave in. So how does it get to this point? First and foremost, cyber criminals troll social media sites. And the more they know from open source information like your social media pages, the more they can tailor that persona that they think that you will be responsive to. And sometimes they try more than one time. If you don't respond to a friend request, maybe you'll respond to this. Maybe you're an animal lover, maybe you're a gardener. They keep trying until they get you, or until they think they can get you. They also share and swap personas with other cyber criminals. If they think a particular person will react better to a different picture or persona, they swap those out. Finally, they'll also utilize scammer forums, chat rooms, where they ask each other for advice on how to respond to their victims, to keep the victims sending money, to keep the victims engaged. So be aware of what you share. Pay attention. If a person is interacting with you and you find that they're just feeding back all of the information about you and making it their own to find those commonalities, that's going to be a red flag. It's important to remember that victims of this crime share a journal with the scammer, who is texting them 9 to 20 times a day. That's what we find on average with the people who come through our program, 9 to 20 times a day. So that scammer, they're having virtual coffee with them in the morning. They're saying goodnight to them every night before bed. They're going to the grocery store with them. They're doing everything all day long with them by their side nonstop. And this goes on for months. We've had participants tell us that the scammer was so helpful to them during difficult times in their life, like when their spouse was sick or had recently passed, or when their parent was ill. One victim told me she wouldn't have made it through the grief of her husband's death without the scammer's constant loving support. Another told me that the scammer stayed on the phone with her for 6 hours while she drove to her daughter's for a visit, because she had told the scammer that she was afraid to drive alone since the passing of her husband. And so to ingratiate himself with her, stayed on the phone for 6 hours. And still another told me that he lived alone and his children lived in another state. And even though he visited with them, every month or so and talked to them every once in a while, the scammer was the only person that he would talk to sometimes for a week or more at a time. And we know that loneliness, isolation, and trauma all play a big part in the scammer's ability to manipulate. Scammers will do things like quote scripture and pray with people if they met them, for example, on a religious dating site. They'll sing to them, they'll write them songs, they'll send them love poetry, they'll share their family's history, and of course, all the while gathering your information about your family and its history. They will even virtually cook with them because they can't be there because of work, but let me have dinner with you. Let's cook together. What are you making? With all of this in mind, here are some things that we want to highlight. To prove that they're telling the truth, these scammers will provide documentation, including passports, driver's license, student IDs, military documents. All of these will often look very convincing because remember, they have the latest technology at their fingertips, and this is all they do all day long. They can create fake documents. We have had participants tell us that they spoke directly with the scammer's supposed attorney, who sent very real looking legal documents so that an agreement was made for the funds to be paid back. Another told us they thought that they spoke with someone at the UN where the scammer was supposedly working, and that person at the UN had provided detailed letters with letterhead, emails coming from the UN, and documentation proving who they were. We've also had victims who told us that they video chatted with their scammer, and it looked as real as if they were chatting with their family members on Skype. No red flags. Scammers use stolen, photoshopped pictures, passports, licenses, family videos, stolen from other victims along the way. They Photoshop things, change faces, change backgrounds, and then reuse these photos. They are often providing almost instantaneous responses and photo backup to questions that the victims ask, like, oh, you're working in Paris right now? Oh, take a picture of a restaurant in Paris that you're eating at. Boom, done, that fast. So it's hard for victims to understand sometimes that they can create those photos instantaneously. And also to grow their scam, they're going to use further impersonation of others, taking things from the current news, how it relates to their story, where they're located, what's going on in the country that they say they're in, their job locations, impersonating couriers who are sending a package that they need assistance paying for. They need your help paying for it. Impersonating law enforcement. Showing fictitious bank accounts to prove that they have the money but that their account is locked. Fictitious attorneys, stealing the identity of real attorneys, so when the victim does do their research, checks out the law office of the attorney, it really exists, so they just go, okay, it must be real. We had a victim who thought she was really speaking to a celebrity, and they spoke on video numerous times. She said he looked exactly like the celebrity looks now, and the celebrity is very ill right now, so his look has changed. This person matched it identically. She's a very educated woman, And this person knew great detail about the celebrity's habits, doctor appointments, and his current look, and nothing raised a red flag for her. Another victim told us that she was watching a Christmas special on a major television station on her TV, and a pop-up came up, and I think we've all seen these before, you know, text this number for a live chat, or, you know, so she sees it and she says, oh, I'm gonna live chat the country singer, and she does, and they end up chatting and texting, and this grows and grows, and she lost quite a bit of money to this scam. This was not the real person. It wasn't until much later that we discovered that she was using a smart TV that was connected to her internet, but her internet was not protected. And so they were able to come in, provide that pop-up, enable the scammers to connect with her and make it look like they were connecting from that major television station. So scammers are trained, they're scripted, they literally have scripts that they follow. They use pages and pages of pre-written dialogue and advice that has been tested and proven, and that's based on psychology. They often have 20 victims that they're communicating with at the same time, and they use spreadsheets in order to keep the information correct for each person that they're talking to. Time after time on intake calls for people coming into our program, I hear the same stories, just with slight variations. And during our group sessions, when someone is telling their story, you'll see the chat just light up with others saying, oh my God, that's the same thing the scammer said to me. That same phrase was used. That same job was used. That location was used. I'm going to pass to Allie now. She's going to get a little bit more into the detail about the psychology that's being used and the latest technology that these scammers are using.
Okay, so I'm going to jump to the bottom, and I'm going to start with how cybercriminals take advantage of the human brain, and then I'm going to follow up with how they take advantage of the latest technology. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit. So unfortunately, our human brains have chemicals and quirks that cybercriminals can take advantage of. So a man by the name of Dr. Paul Zak, he wrote a book on all of this. The book is called The Moral Molecule. And in his book, he talks about the hormone oxytocin and its effect on the feeling of trust. So basically, oxytocin plays a role in social bonding with other people. And it's believed that it's responsible for that kind of warm and that fuzzy feeling that you get when you're talking to someone you really like, or you're just like, wow, that's a good person. So his research states that oxytocin can be released over email or text. So he concluded that face-to-face in-person interaction is not required for perceived trust to release oxytocin. So it can happen during an online conversation. And when we think about it, I mean, everyone has had a text or a phone call or an email that's made them kind of giddy, right? That's given them that warm and fuzzy feeling. So now we have this scientific proof that that is in fact possible. What I'm going to touch on now is dopamine. So the neurotransmitter dopamine is released in the brain during moments of stimulation, happiness, pleasure, right? So when you combine this dopamine with oxytocin, it can cause our brains to kind of think less rationally and can lead to a more impulse response. So when a cybercriminal is interacting with you, when they're paying attention to you, when they're saying those sweet things, when they're empathizing with you and your daily issues, causing you to trust them more, they are making your brain release oxytocin and dopamine and putting you in a more impulsive state. So cybercriminals know the effect their attention is having on your brain. Okay, they may not wake up in the morning and say, today I'm going to increase my target's dopamine and oxytocin so that they give me money. But they know that lovesick people make rash decisions. So they spend time, they spend effort, right? Weeks, months, years, as Kim has said, to make their victims lovesick. They leverage these natural chemical reactions to increase the success rate of their attacks. All right, now not only do scammers take advantage of our brain chemistry, unfortunately, they also take advantage of our cognitive biases. So cognitive biases are unconscious and systematic errors in thinking that happen when people are kind of processing information. We can all be affected by cognitive biases when we make decisions. It is just an unfortunate reality of our brains. So the first bias I'm going to talk about is the truth bias. And it kind of is exactly how it sounds. The truth bias is the tendency to believe that other people are telling us the truth. Okay, so when a scammer impersonates someone over email, text, or phone, our brain wants to believe that they are telling us the truth, that they are who they say they are. And we have to fight our brain's natural tendency to accept what it hears and sees as truth, right? Especially with the internet. We need to remember that the internet and our devices are really tricky strangers. And we need to ask questions and do our research before giving anyone our money or information. Okay, the next bias, optimism bias. So most of us tend to think that for the most part, good things are going to happen to us. And that's okay, right? We don't want to walk around life just thinking these terrible, negative things are always going to be happening to us. We need this optimism bias to survive. But criminals play on this bias. So they use our optimism against us, and they try and convince us that they can or they are about to grant us our happily ever after. In terms of a romance scam, our brain wants to think that we have met the perfect person and that we are going to have a wonderful future together, because good things do happen. All right, the next bias I'm going to touch on is overconfidence bias. If you have ever said, ugh, I'd never fall for a scam, other people fall for scams, I'm going to catch it, you may be experiencing the overconfidence bias. The fact is that we think we're going to be able to see a scam easy, but when we are the target of a scam, it can be really tricky to spot the warning signs. So be aware of that overconfidence bias. And then the last one I'm going to bring up is the confirmation bias. So the confirmation bias is the tendency to look for information that strengthens your current thoughts or beliefs. This often causes us to dismiss any new information that we get along the way that may lead us to a different conclusion than the one we've made. So this bias works hand in hand with the truth bias. So the truth bias tells us that the scammer is who they say they are. We make that decision, and then any clues or red flags or lack of clues, right, or verification of the scammer, right, that we pick up along the way, we dismiss, right, because we've already decided they are who they say they are. So we don't kind of take into account this new information. All right, so it's not hopeless. We aren't doomed because of our brain chemistry or these biases. A way to combat our brain's natural tendencies, its chemicals, is to just always do your research on someone you met on the internet or on a device. And I'm going to get more into this later. I know I already said it, but it is so important. And I just want you to not lose hope, right? And not lose that important piece of information. There is hope, and research is the way. Okay, now with that, I'm going to jump back up. I'm going to hit on the final reason why cybercriminals are so successful. And that is because they quickly adopt the latest and greatest technology. And two current examples of that, cybercriminals are utilizing cryptocurrency and artificial intelligence. And again, Kim has kind of touched on this a little bit. I'm going to touch on it more right now. So let's talk about cryptocurrency. Again, cybercriminals love cryptocurrency because once it is sent, it is impossible to reverse the transaction. Now, a particularly harsh example of how scammers take advantage of cryptocurrency's irreversible nature is the scam that Kim mentioned earlier, the pig butchering scam. Again, as a side note, cybercriminals made this name for the scam, pig butchering. The criminals compare victims to pigs that are fattened up before slaughter. So pig butchering is the term they kind of tacked onto this crime. At CSN, we don't love this term, and so we use the term crypto romance scam. All right, anyway, with that, here's how a crypto romance scam kind of currently works. So everything Kim has mentioned, right? A scammer creates a fake persona, multiple fake personas. They contact potential victims through social media, text messages, email, dating apps, and then they build that relationship and get the trust kind of flowing. In a crypto romance scam, however, after trust has been established, that scammer is going to introduce cryptocurrency into the conversation. Now, some ways we've heard scammers introduce cryptocurrency or investing in cryptocurrency are the following. So the scammer will say, I want us to have a really great future together. Let's invest in cryptocurrency and start our new lives with money that's ours, so we can buy a house together, we can travel the world together, whatever, right? Insert the happily ever after idea. The next tactic I've heard is the scammer will say, hey, I know you have a lot of student debt, credit card debt, a mortgage, right? Let me teach you about investing in crypto. I've made money, I've been successful. I want to help you make money so you don't have any debt. And then the final tactic we hear a lot is scammers will say, you know, I know you're taking care of your aging parents, or I know this person in your life is very sick and you want to help them, you want to help pay their bills. Why don't you let me teach you how to invest in crypto so you can take care of them? Now, if the victim agrees, the scammer will guide the individual to a crypto exchange platform that looks legitimate, but in reality, it is completely fake. It is not legitimate. The scammer will tell the victim to create their own account, link their own crypto wallet, and then they will make recommendations as to what investments the victim should make. So essentially, the victim believes that they are on a legitimate crypto investment website or platform. They think they've made their own account with their own password that, you know, the scammer or their mentor rather has no access to. And they think they are in control of investing their own money. They're the one clicking the buttons. They're the one making the decisions. Their mentor is just advising them. So they have been made to believe that they are in charge, but they are not. The victim is not in charge. Scammers are in control of the fake platform, and they will show fake account information, always indicating growth in investment, growth in returns. Now, the platform is going to show real-time trading, and that real-time trading is going to match kind of the reality on legitimate crypto investment platforms. The scammer is also going to allow the victims to usually pull small amounts out at first. So they start with small investments. Let's say they put in $20. They get a growth of double, right? So now they have $40. The scammer will let them pull all 40 of those dollars out. And that grows the victim's confidence because they think, oh, well, I was able to pull the money out. Of course, this must be legitimate. And so they put that 40 back in, and then they just start investing everything they have because they want those big returns. Now, eventually the victim is going to want to withdraw that large sum of money out. And that's when they discover that they are now unable to withdraw their money. Because after that first one or two small investments, right, the scammer is going to kind of shut the door and not allow that to happen, or withdrawals rather. The first one or two withdrawals, small withdrawals, the scammer is not going to allow that to happen anymore. So by the time this large withdrawal is trying to take place, they can no longer do it, right? So the victim will then go to the platform's fake customer service, right? These platforms have customer service to add to the legitimacy of it all. And the customer service is going to tell them, no, yeah, you can't pull out your money. You owe taxes, you owe fees. And unfortunately, this is this last effort by the scammer's part to squeeze more money out of the victim if it's possible. So many victims will go get loans to pay these fees or taxes. They will borrow from family members. And unfortunately, this is just more money going to the criminal, because the second that money leaves the individual's crypto wallet and goes into the crypto investment website, it is actually going into a criminal's crypto wallet, and it is gone forever. So at CSN, we speak with individuals affected by these scams daily, and they are devastating. I have spoken to people who have lost millions of dollars. Please, if you have met someone online and you're dating them and they start talking about crypto investing, they are a scammer, okay? Block them, find a new love interest, run away. With that, I'm just going to touch on artificial intelligence briefly because we're going to get into it on the next slide. But as Kim said, scammers are using voice cloning, deepfake technology, and chatbots. This AI technology enables them to look, sound like anyone in the world, any language, any accent, anything. Artificial intelligence has allowed them to automate and to scale these scams so that they can commit more crimes in less time, with less effort, more effectively. All right, so with that, let me go to the next slide, and here we go. You know what a romance scam is. You know why cyber criminals are so successful at perpetrating romance scams. So now how can you protect yourself and others from becoming affected by romance scams? These steps on the screen are going to help you out. All right, just completing one of these steps alone is not always enough to determine if you're talking to a romance scammer. So please go through all of these steps before determining if the person you're talking to is real or not.
Get back your internet freedom. PCmatic VPN is now available for mobile devices. Get protection that's 100% made in America. Go to PCmatic.com. Built by Americans to protect America.
And there it is, the first one. Do your research. Research the person you met online before getting serious. This should be done, I mean, the day you meet them, if not just within days, right? Do this as soon as you can. Start your research by typing that person's name into your search engine of choice, right? And if their name is William Smith, type in Will Smith, though you might get a lot of reactions on that one. Bill Smith, Billy Smith, right? So you type in all the variations of their name. Consider typing the name or the word scam after their name as well, or scammer. See what pops up. Also perform a reverse image search on the person's photos that either they sent you or that you see in their profile. For those that have never done a reverse image search before, a reverse image search is just a way of finding similar images to the one you've uploaded to the search engine. So you put in their picture and that reverse image search is going to look for things that are similar. There are a few tools out there that can do a reverse image search. You can use Google. Google is free, but not necessarily the best. Some other tools out there are TinEye, T-I-N-E-Y-E, and PimEyes, P-I-M-E-Y-E-S. They have similar names, but they are different, and they can help you do a reverse image search. Next, if the individual you're talking to has sent you a copy of their passport, driver's license, all the things Kim talked about earlier, do not include this as reliable information during the research phase. Again, as we mentioned, they've either stolen these documents or they've created fake documents. It's really easy to Photoshop and make a document look just amazing. So do not trust any documents that person gives you. Do not let those documents sway your decision. And finally, and this is not technically research, but this should be done during the research phase, so I'm including it. It is a telling factor if the person you met online cannot meet you in person within 2 to 3 weeks. The busiest person on the planet can arrange a 10-minute coffee with you, okay? So if you can't meet them within 2 to 3 weeks, they are a scammer. You need to block them and move on. All right, after you've done some research, you may still be unsure about the person you're talking to. Maybe you found some things. Maybe you didn't find anything at all. No matter what you found, the next step is really important. You need to go to your trusted network. You need to go to your family and friends, those that again, you really trust, and ask them what they think. Ask them what they think about the person. Ask them what they think about what you found on this individual. And a lot of times our trusted network can catch a scam directed at us because they aren't feeling lovesick. They're not feeling those emotions. We have had so many people come to us and say, you know what? My friend or my family member saw the warning signs way before I did. And the reason is, again, they're not feeling those love sick, those emotions, right? That's directed, that the scammer's directing it towards them. Excuse me. Ugh, getting mush mouth. Okay. This brings us to our next item. Okay. As we talked about, scammers love emotional manipulation. They're very good at it. So you need to watch out for signs of emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation is just a form of psychological control, where one person uses deceptive tactics. They lie, right, to exploit another person's emotions for their benefit. So romance scammers are really great at this. I'm not going to get into all the tactics they use. I'm just going to focus on the main ones we want you to look out for. The first one, they will withhold affection, and it looks like this. So once a scammer realizes that a victim has become emotionally attached, they strategically withdraw their affection, okay? And think, this point, just as Kim said, they have been texting 9 to 20 times a day, right? It's been constant. They've spent weeks or months just doting on this victim. And then this abrupt silence happens. And this can really stress a victim out, right? They'll think, oh my gosh, what did I do? What did I say? Why did they pull away from me? This emotional withdrawal compels the victim to demonstrate their love more aggressively, okay? So they want to restore that previous level of affection and communication. And so here's when the scammer can sense kind of the desperation from the victim, and they'll say, well, I'm so distracted because, you know, my family member is sick and I can't pay for their bills, or my business is on the verge of collapse and I need financial assistance. Or I'm trapped in this country and I need to get out of here, but I don't have the money to get a plane ticket. And the victim, again, so desperate to regain the scammer's love, is often beyond eager to provide this person with support and financial assistance. And in fact, sometimes the scammer doesn't even have to ask, right? As soon as the victim hears the story, they'll say, oh my gosh, please, let me send you money. Okay, I can help you out. So the next type of manipulation I'm going to cover is emotional blackmail. So scammers often threaten consequences if their victim doesn't send money. We've heard these phrases before. It's going to be, if you loved me, you would send me money, right? You would do this for me. Or it's going to sound like, don't be frustrated with me. Don't leave me. I will hurt myself if you leave me. You know, I will kill myself if you leave me. We have often spoken to victims who did not want to send money at all. They felt uncomfortable sending money, but because they were in love and they didn't want the person that they loved to hurt themselves, they sent the money anyway. All right, the next type of manipulation is gaslighting. So gaslighting is a form of manipulation where the person denies or distorts your reality, right? It makes you question your memory, your thoughts, your sanity, right? They may say things like, you're overreacting, or that never happened. I don't remember it that way. And this invalidates how the victim is feeling. Scammers use this tactic all the time. They will say that the person is overreacting to the amount of money that has been sent. They will say, ugh, I don't understand why you're behaving this way. You know I'm going to pay you the money back. You know that you're the one I love. I wouldn't be doing this to you. I wouldn't steal from you. Okay, the last manipulation technique I'll hit on is isolation, or isolating the victim from their loved ones. Now, as we mentioned earlier, scammers will maintain constant communication with their victims, and this not only helps build trust quickly, but it also allows the scammer to gain control over the victim. So when the scammer establishes themselves as this primary trusted person in the victim's life, they can effectively control what the victim believes and thinks. Also, the scammers are going to be prepared for any pushback from friends and family, right? So if friends and family get there too late, right? Again, and that's why it's so important to ask that trusted network before you get serious, because once that scammer's in, they are the primary source of information. So if the family members and friends get there too late and say, this is not right, something's off, I think you're getting scammed, right? The victim will always go back to the scammer and say, you know, my friends and family, they think you're a scammer, they don't trust you. And the scammer responds with, why do they hate love? Why can't they just be happy for us, right? They're just jealous of our relationship. All right, so be mindful of these tactics. If you see them, get out of the relationship as soon as possible. All right, and with that, that takes us to artificial intelligence, AI. It is important to understand the indicators of artificial intelligence because, as we mentioned, scammers are using AI, and it's making it easier for them to steal our information and our money. I'm going to start off by talking about voice cloning technology. So voice cloning tech allows you to create either completely fake voices or a copy of a real person's voice. We've all heard copies of Donald Trump's voice or Taylor Swift's voice, right? Celebrities. We've all heard that. But a scammer can basically create any voice they want, with any accent they want, in any language they want. And some cloning tools out there only need 3 or 4 seconds of audio to mimic someone's voice. Now, you may be able to detect a poor quality voice clone or voice creation with your ears, but it's going to be really tough if you aren't just focused on listening. So what you can try and do is you can try and listen for inflection, tone variation, speed variation. All of those things are present in a real voice. But if the voice kind of sounds flat or hollow and it goes in a monotone voice and it has the same pace, that may be an indicator of either just a really boring person or a voice clone. So it's going to be hard to notice, but you can try and listen for that. All right, the next type of AI technology that scammers are using is deepfake tech. So deepfakes are just manipulated photos or videos that are created using machine learning algorithms, and they look real. Right now, it is possible to make a deepfake video from a single photo of a person. This video isn't going to be great, right? But you can do it. Now, there are a lot of free programs out there that can create deepfakes. They do a pretty good job, right? Free is not always best. But there are more sophisticated programs out there that require like 3 to 10 minutes of video. Some require more. Again, the more video you have, the better quality deepfake. That's why, again, celebrities are often victims of these deepfake scams or crimes because, I mean, they have hours of video, right? So celebrity deepfakes are almost impossible to differentiate. And again, these programs, the sophisticated programs, are going to cost some money, but I mean, it's under $100, so it's very affordable at this point in time. Yeah, so you are not going to be able to use your eyes or your ears to spot a deep fake that has been created using multiple minutes of video. And you're not going to be able to use your eyes and ears to determine if it's real or not. Also, I want you to know that people can create real-time deep fakes, so on a video chat. So someone can be video chatting with you and using deep fake tech to look and sound completely different. Okay, so just because you're video chatting with someone does not mean they are real. It does not mean they are legitimate. So just in the past few months, we have seen scammers start using this real-time deepfake technology regularly. And unfortunately, there aren't a lot of tips that I can give you to spot or catch someone using this real-time deepfake AI technology. But I'm going to give you 3 just in case, because not every scammer has the latest tech. So try these 3 tips, see if you can catch someone using AI in real time. But again, be very cautious. It's going to be really hard. So first, ask the person you're talking to on video chat to pick up something random and put it in front of their face, okay? Some AI real-time deepfake tech has trouble with objects in front of the face, okay? You'll see blurring, you'll see glitching, you'll see pixelation. You can also ask them to pick up and show you a form of ID. Show me your driver's license, right? Show me your gym ID, something like that. It's going to be really hard for a scammer to quickly manufacture that and put it up to the camera. And again, put it in front of their face, see if it blurs or glitches. All right, the next tip I can give you is ask them to stand up and kind of do a little dance, right? The more movement, the better. You kind of want to see the back of their head. If they can do a little circle, that'd be great. You may be able to catch some glitching, some blurring of the image. AI sometimes has a hard time with full body movement or that turning around of the body. And then final tip, when you're video chatting with someone that you have not met in person, right? Do the video chat on a big screen. If you do it on a cell phone screen or a smaller tablet screen, it's gonna be harder to catch that glitching, that blurring. So do it on a nice big computer screen and pay attention to what you see. Now, the problem with all these tips that I just gave you is that all of us regularly see blurring or glitching or pauses on video chats because of a poor internet connection. So the scammer is always going to tell you, that happened because I have a bad internet connection, right? And they'll just shut off their video, or they'll say, that's why all I want to do is text you or talk with you on the phone. But if this happens every time you talk to them, or they now refuse to video chat with you at all, and if you've never met them in person, and if your research is coming up with some discrepancies or some red flags or nothing at all, right, you're going to use all of that information to make an informed decision. There is no silver bullet for this stuff, again. All right, and the last part of AI I'm going to talk about is chatbots. So a chatbot is just a computer program that's designed to interpret and respond to people in a conversational manner. It's made to make you think you're talking to a human. So many times when you're talking to those customer service online, chats, you're talking to a chatbot, not a real person. And we know this, we've experienced this, we've all done this. But a more current and better example is ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a chatbot. Now, unfortunately for all of us, scammers have created chatbots on the dark web that work exactly like ChatGPT. And essentially, these chatbots make it so that a cybercriminal can create a very convincing phishing email or script or phone script, any sort of message in any language they want with no spelling errors, no grammar mistakes. These dark web ChatGPT programs can even suggest where to put a malicious link within the email or the text. And then the dark web chatbot or ChatGPT program can create the malicious link for the criminal. So the criminal doesn't even need to know coding. They don't have to have any tech knowledge. They just have to have access to the dark web and access to these chatbots on the dark web. So the good news is AI is great at detecting AI, and there are detection tools out there. You can purchase them, and they will help you detect AI in videos, photos, and live videos. They cost money. Some are geared more towards big companies, but the technology exists, and it is out there. But it is not at a stage where it's going to catch 100% of AI all the time. So again, no silver bullet. It is just a tool to use and gather information so you can make an informed decision. Now, I don't think this video is going to play. It's playing on mine. I don't know if you guys can see it, but you can see where the video, its title, you can find it on YouTube. The real-time AI deepfake has gone too far. Type that in YouTube. Okay, oh, Kim says we can see it. So I'm not going to play the sound. I just want you to look at it. Okay, this is what deepfake technology can currently do. The man in the corner, right, is the real person. You see he has that kind of lovely wig on, but he's a real person and he's using the tech, right? And it's allowing him to look like that girl. And you see here, the amazing thing is he's touching his face, he's pulling it, and it looks really good. He's eating, and it's going in front of his mouth. Like that used to just be so hard for AI, anything interacting with the face or the mouth. A couple months ago, you'd see the blurring, you'd see the pixelation, and now it looks really good. He's gonna move his eyes if he hasn't already. That was another thing that was it just looked weird. It wasn't looking good. And now they've solved that problem. So I want you to ask yourself, if you were on a live video chat and just saw this girl looking back at you, eating, moving her eyes around, right? Would you be able to tell that she was fake? Because I would not be able to tell. So I ask you, please, or I'm telling you rather, do not trust your eyes and ears when you're online or using your devices, okay? Do your research, your independent research, right? Don't trust what they're sending you. Ask your friends and loved ones what they think. Understand emotional manipulation and what it looks like, and know that AI is out there. It is getting better by the day, and that scammers are using it. Okay, and with that, that is all we have, and thank you so much. If you have any questions on what we talked about today, it's at fightcybercrime.org.
Awesome. Thank you, Al and Kim. Incredibly important information, and reinforces the need for a healthy dose of skepticism in anything these days. We do have a few questions that have come in, so if we've got about 10 minutes, I'll try to get to as many as possible. And even if we don't get to a question that was submitted, I'm sure we'll find a way to address that question offline and get you an answer. Mary would like to know, is the initial contact in these types of scams typically text, email, phone call, video call? Is there a commonality in terms of that initial point of contact?
So Kim, I'll start, and you want to take it from me, but people who come to us, they've usually been contacted through a dating website or app, followed by Facebook, right? A friend request, a friend of a friend, right? We always say a friend of a friend is a stranger, right? Because people tend to think, oh, a friend of a friend, you must know this person. Oh, we're good to go. But really, your friend friended that person because it was a friend of a friend, right? It's this big long chain. So those are the two main ways that people we help are contacted. And then Kim, I know you have a lot of good information on this. So
Yeah, I would say the same, 50-50 social media site versus dating site is the majority of the people. Once in a while, however, we have had people who got a random phone call or one of those random texts, oops, sorry, wrong person, but hi, my name is so-and-so, or received a phone call at home. That's used a lot, especially on older adults who are home picking up that home phone. And so, but mostly that 50-50 split, social media and dating sites.
Now, Ellie, I think you alluded to dating apps, and there was a question from Ron about, do dating apps insulate you to some degree against anything like this? Are these dating apps doing any type of vetting, or is this just making you more susceptible because you're putting yourself out there through dating apps?
So we have partnered with a few. Match.com is one of our partners, for example, and they do have information that on scams and how this can happen. I believe they may have a warning or two on their website. We work hard with them to try and implement more. We kind of want more points of friction, right? So we want, before you even start dating online, to be more aware of what is happening and what is going on, because people have come to us and said, well, I went to this dating website and I just thought that because I paid a membership that they were vetting, you know, these people, and they really aren't. It's very prevalent, not very prevalent, but they say what, 10%, Kim, of dating profiles? Is it more than that?
They say about 20%, but
20%.
from talking to people who've come through our program, the percentage seems quite a bit higher. You know, these criminals are popping on and off faster than the dating app can recognize them and pull them off. So they're changing those identities quick. They know that as soon as they find and snag their victim, they're taking them off that dating app before they get tagged, and they're coming on as somebody else and mixing it up. So they have their ways around it. Just know, you know, when you're on a dating site, there's a lot of great people out there looking for someone, but there's a lot of scammers trolling those sites, and you have to pick and weed through it.
A question from Tracy. She would like to know, how much do these scammers know about their potential victims in advance? And I think you mentioned some of this, but they do a fair amount of reconnaissance work before even targeting someone. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. So if you have a public profile, and again, some people are like, I'm an influencer, right? I need a public profile. I need to be out there. But if you have a lot of your information just out there and accessible, they're looking at it. So I spoke with a victim last week who she was a widow. Her husband had been a bodybuilder. And so the persona that the scammer had used was, he was a big buff guy. He looked similar to her deceased husband. He was kind of from the same area her deceased husband was from. And of course, he got all of that off the internet, and he knew this is gonna snag her, right? So if it's out there, they are using it against you. And also remember, it is not just you. You are your network, right? So if you are sharing information on your friends and family, those scammers are saying, thank you very much. Now I have information on your friends and family as well.
So do you have some best practices you could share about in terms of social media and how to approach these accounts? Obviously, you can lock them down to some degree, but are there, I guess, best practices that you recommend for those on Facebook and Instagram and some of the more common platforms?
Yeah. So again, Kim, I'll start. You fill in where I forget. I mean, the biggest thing is it is very individual, right? It's a very individual decision. So what I do recommend is, if you are an influencer, right? If you need to have a public profile, you also have a personal profile. So you separate those two, and your public profile doesn't necessarily have the things like your name, your address, your location, right? We see those. I've checked into Starbucks, right, at this time, at this date, because again, they are watching and seeing where you are. So keep that kind of separate from your personal and your public. And then again, the pictures and the photos, right? Like, understand when that photo goes on the internet. I think we all understand it's there forever, but we don't necessarily understand the repercussions of that now with AI. They can just pluck that, and now they have your image, and they can do whatever they want with it, right? And I think before it was bad enough where my image is now on the internet forever, but now anything can be done to it. So really think about the photos that you are putting up and sharing with the world. Kim, what did I forget?
Yeah, I think, for the average person, the non-influencer, go back and look at your privacy settings. It's on every social media site, every dating site. Go into those privacy settings and drill those down. Make them as tight as you can, as you're comfortable with. Understand that a friend of a friend is not your friend and may not even be that person's friend. That's how scammers get in. But you can really tighten up those things. You can say, I'm going to post my pictures because I want my friends and family to see them, but I don't want anybody else to see them. So I'm going to pick a setting that says only my friends and family can see them. And I'm going to go one step farther, and I'm going to say my friends and family can't, no one can see it when they post my picture, right? So you can make it so that they can't grab your picture and then repost it. So it's really only in your network, and keeping that network as tight as possible when it comes to your personal stuff.
I've got two final questions here for you. Todd would like to know, do you have any research or reports regarding the source of where these scammers are located? Are they international? Are they national, regional? Are they local potentially?
Yes. So yeah, yes.
All of the
all
above,
of it.
right?
Yeah, all of the above. But I mean, the FBI is going to have a lot of data. You can go check on their website. We go to a lot of kind of webinars on this information where we're getting updates on scams that are from Nigeria, scams that are from, Asia. Sometimes in our intakes, when we're talking to victims, Kim and I can kind of be like, okay, this person was talking to likely someone from Nigeria, just because of the words they use, how they run the scam, right? The crypto investment scams tend to be from Asia, kind of that area, those crime rings. So there is a different flavor to both of those. We don't collect kind of that information. That's not our job. That's going to be FBI. Kim, I don't know if you have specific reports or things to point them to.
I would just, they can be from anywhere, absolutely. But a lot of these organized crime rings are going to be located in countries where they know that they can hide from US law enforcement. So they're going to be in Nigeria, Ghana, some of the Asian countries, third world countries that have weak governments that aren't cracking down on this, Russia. So those are where they're probably most prevalent. Can they be anywhere? Absolutely. Do we have some here in the United States? I'm sure, but we tend to see mostly located in these places. When our participants report back to us, law enforcement, dead-ended somewhere in one of those countries. They could see where the money went, but they couldn't get it.
And the final question we'll wrap up is from Jeffrey. He's asking about whether these victims ever get their money back. And I think we talked earlier, and this is common with a lot of the cybercrime we talk about, is tied to cryptocurrency, which is incredibly hard to trace and recover. But are victims getting their money back in these types of scams?
Do you want to tell the story, Kim, about the one crime ring? I think that's a happy story, and then we can end with more of the sad information.
Actually, what I was going to say is most of the victims who come through our program do not get their money back. Some of them, the investigations were somewhat successful. When the police followed the trail, they were able to freeze an account. They were able to get some money out, and then that money is spread to those victims that were connected. But it's usually a fraction of what they've lost. They have not been made whole. Well, we do have cases. When we first started this program, there was a case in Chicago with 100 victims. They were able to arrest a middleman here in the United States, funneling money back to Africa. That person was brought to trial and they went to jail. And they do break up rings when they can, but mostly no. And if it's crypto, it's almost impossible to get that money back. And even on a wire transfer, the police have like a 3-day window before they can turn that around. So unless they find an account that they can, that they have enough evidence to freeze, and that account is located in the US or US friendly country, then no, they cannot get the money back.
When we spoke with the FBI, they were like, speed is the key, right? Speed and kind of the numbers, the account numbers. But I mean, most of the victims or participants that we work with, it's been months or years, and unfortunately.
Meet Max. Max works hard to keep your home protected from intruders. But who's protecting your computer? With PCmatic, you'll get American-made antivirus protection that stops malware in its tracks, provides real-time protection, offers automatic updates, and ensures your computer runs smoothly and securely. Give Max peace of mind with the trusted protection of PCmatic. Get protected for just $60 at PCmatic.com.